Hi guys, welcome to the inaugural episode of Midnight Hatter's Hobby Hacks. My name is Steven, and today I'm going to show you how to get better results from making a two-part press mold to duplicate your Gundam model parts. Let's hop in. I've been wanting to make this video for a while now, ever since I discovered this product. I used to think that the only way to make a duplicate of Gundam model parts was to use resin cast molds. The learning curve on which seemed a little steep for me. It seemed expensive for all of the components that you would need, and it just takes too long. 12 hours for a piece to cure so that I can sand it and paint it and all that good stuff was just way too much time for me to commit. So when I discovered this on YouTube a few months ago, I had to try it out. This is Oyumaru, affectionately referred to as blue stuff. It is a Japanese thermoplastic product that you can melt down using hot water and make two-part press molds of the part that you want to copy. You fill that mold with some epoxy putty, and in 4 to 8 hours you have an exact replica of the piece you needed, which is so much easier and so much cheaper than using resin cast molds. I use it both for Gundam parts and for making D&D miniatures. If I need a whole bunch of orcs or goblins, rather than spend $5 a pop on unpainted minis, I'll just duplicate ones that I have, and in no time I have a horde ready to play. Which brings me to the best part about this product is that it's reusable. Once you're done with a mold, you can melt it down and make a different mold, and you can do this infinitely, which makes it incredibly cost effective, which appeals to the cheapskate in me. Now I'm going to show you how to save even more money and get even better results than if you were to just use the products that you would see on any other tutorial. So join me on this one. Most people, when they are making these two-part molds, will use Tamiya putty or milliput or green stuff. You know, the blue and yellow epoxy putty. You mix them together, it turns green, and then you can sculpt with it. Those products yield pretty good results, but they are super expensive. A 4-ounce tube of milliput is about $8 on Amazon, whereas, say, this, what I use, epoxy sculpt, comes in 1 pound and 4 pound varieties. The 1 pound is $22, 4 pounds for $42. And I know that sounds like a lot, but per ounce, milliput is $2 an ounce, whereas a 1 pound tub of this is $1.38 per ounce. This 4 pound tub of it is 68 cents per ounce. So you're saving a lot of money. I've had these tubs since January, and I'm going to keep making tons more miniatures with them. Now, the one downside, the drawback, is that maybe you don't get as good results as you would with milliput or even with resin cast molds. So I'm going to show you how to get better results using the cheap stuff. Let me tell you about the project that I'm working on here. I'm actually working on a couple of different customs at the moment. This one is a Ruluka Zeta Plus Gundam, and it's an HDUC, the unicorn version. One thing about the customs that I make is I always like to have, a story, a narrative that ties them into the universe. I don't just make things because they look cool. I want them to be relevant. And so this kind of takes place in an alternate reality where Judo Ashta and Ruluka stayed behind and fought in both of the Neo Zeon wars after Haman. So with that in mind, I'm going to show you the weapon that we're going to be making for this Gundam model. This piece here is a Gatling gun. It's one of the high-def Gunpla pieces, and there's a little radome that I've attached here to the barrel of the gun. This piece in particular, I'm going to need this for another model, and rather than spend another $30 to get another Gatling gun set, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate this piece. Now, this is where that drawback that I was talking about comes into play. So I've tried to make duplicates of this piece before, and as you can see, I mean, there's some flashing there that I didn't trim off, but that's because, I mean, that piece is not going to fit where I need it to. I mean, it would take way more work to trim this guy down than to make a much better duplicate of that part. So that's what we're going to do today, is we are going to try and thin out our epoxy putty using some acetone. And again, this is where I'm going to try and save you some money in the long run as well. So you can find, I'm also a painter and illustrator, so I have a ton of paint thinner sitting around, but paint thinner is just as expensive as milliput. You can spend $12 on like a little 8-ounce can of paint thinner, or you can run to CVS and get a bottle of nail polish remover for like $3. In fact, In the link below, I'm going to provide a link to 40 ounces of pure acetone nail polish remover for like 10 bucks. So you can't beat that. It's the same product, but under a different name, and I'm not a fan of overpaying for something just because it says paint thinner on it. So now that said, let's start. You probably hear some weird humming going on in the background, and it's because I have got the bougiest little double boiler here going. Don't tell my wife this, but what I'm actually using is a sous vide with a double water bath, and that's how we're going to melt down our plastic. Normally I would just run to the microwave and microwave a bowl of water for about 3-4 minutes, and that would give you the same results. But I didn't want to have to, I don't want you guys to have to sit through that, me running to the microwave and back. So we're just going to use this little double boiler here. I'm going to go ahead and take these old molds and throw them in my hot water bath, melt them down, and we are going to start making our molds. Now, that said, I will tell you this. I have a bad habit of making way too much putty when it's time to make these molds. So I have a couple of other pieces here that I need to make molds of as well. So I highly advise, again, this is a time-saving tip, money-saving tip, have lots of parts that you need to make molds of handy just in case you have more putty than you planned on making. For instance, this right here, I was working on my little 1 to 1700 scale Argama battleship, and my dog jumped on me and broke one of the gun barrels of the mega particle cannons. So now I have to make a duplicate of that part. So, I'm getting a lot of mileage for what I'm doing here. Another thing that I'm going to get going here is handy dandy gloves. Okay, so this is the consistency that we're looking for. This stuff should be like saltwater taffy when you're playing with it. It is very hot to the touch, so please watch your fingers. And let's go ahead and get this thing started. I tear off a little sizable piece there. That seems like a good bit. Here, I'll actually do this where you can see it. Now you want to take the most detailed part and press that down first, because what's going to happen is the top part of the mold is not going to be nearly as detailed as the bottom part. So your bottom part needs to be where most of the detail is focused. We're just going to press that in. Now, one step that I used to think was irrelevant, but I have since come to appreciate it, and you're going to appreciate this too when you start doing this, is make your mold guides. These little holes here are going to make sure that your mold stays straight when you press the top part of it on. And it seems like it wouldn't be necessary, but when you're squeezing this thing as hard as you're going to be squeezing it, you're going to appreciate the fact that those mold guides were there. So, we're just going to make sure that we get a nice, even mold. Yeah. Make that guide a little bit wider. You want to make sure you squeeze out as much of the air bubbles as you can, because those are going to jack up your mold if you are not careful. So, now that these pieces have cooled, we can put the tops on, and let's start that now. Make sure to press as hard as you can to get your mold guides filled. Now I like to do this from time to time, press from the top. That way you get a nice flat surface on the top and bottom. That is going to come in handy for the next step. Trust me on that one. Make sure that that is a nice tight fit. That you're super happy I can finally turn that off, and we're going to get to the fun stuff in just a few minutes while these cool. Okay, so our molds should have cooled down now, and it's time for the fun part of this experiment, is actually making the epoxy putty. So let's pop these guys open and see what kind of molds we're working with. I had forgotten that this was the halfling. Oof, man. There we go. That'll fit together nicely. Then we've got our mega particle cannon. Okay, now for the fun stuff. We're going to mix up some of this epoxy putty. One piece of advice that I'm going to give you is to use different hands for each part of the putty. What that's going to do is it's going to make sure that you don't mix the part A with the part B. If you even get a little bit of one in the other, this stuff will set, and then you're going to be out of luck when it comes to your putty supply, which, again, you know, it's all about saving that money. So we're going to make some relatively equal-sized balls of putty. Actually, I think that's a little bigger now, so let's just pinch off a little bit more. Oh, I just broke my own rule. Look at that. And now we mix them. Now, you want to get this mixed to the point where there's one color in there. This probably isn't the best angle. You probably can't see there that, you know, it's like you want one solid gray, not two-toned. Now, as you can see, that putty is still pretty clay-like. You know, you can see the kind of, that's not, we're looking for a lot smoother consistency than that. And that's where the acetone's going to come in. So, got a little ramekin here. And we're just going to add a bit of our acetone. And let's see, so that's all right. So we've just dunked a little bit of our putty into the acetone mixture, and we're going to work it with our fingers until it gets a little smoother consistency. You know, we're trying to get away from that crumbly feta cheese look and more like a melty mozzarella cheese. That's the best way I can describe what we're going for here. Is no goat cheese, no feta cheese. We want mozzarella cheddar or Munster. Munster's a good melty cheese, right? Yeah, what about that? Is that any better? It's getting there. We probably need one more little dunk. And that will just about do it. And you see how much more pliable this stuff is. It's so soft. And that's going to give us the best results. And then it's as easy as stuffing your mold. We're going to do the top half as well. Once you press these on top of each other, it will become one piece because the epoxy sticks to itself. Now here's the thing. You're going to want to squeeze the ever-loving crap out of this. Put as much weight of it on as you can. Step on it if you have to. I've left some molds underneath my bed overnight as a way of squeezing them out. The more putty you see there coming out of the side, the more flashing you get, the better it's going to be, because that's how you know that you're getting a much more accurate mold. And that is why you need your mold guides, because when you start squeezing, you're going to get some strange results. Now, let's go ahead and do that a little bit more, you know, show you some of these other molds. Let's do this guy here. Hey, costume change. I let everything sit overnight to make sure that they had all cured and hardened properly before we pop them open and see what we've got inside. So let's take a look at our results. So we will start, of course, with the part in question. This is the attachment for our Gatling gun. Looking pretty good so far. That's another thing about this process is that it makes the flashing so much easier to remove than to just use the raw putty. And already I am seeing better results than our previous attempt. Yeah, look at that. And when it comes to cleanup, you have a couple of options. You can use your hobby knife. I will use nippers from time to time. And of course, I'm a big fan of the classic nail file, just to really smooth those edges down. So that's it. Obviously, these pieces need a little bit more detail work, the flashing trimmed down to be sanded and painted before they are runway ready, so to speak. But hopefully this video has shown you that you can get relatively good results from inexpensive and easy to use materials really quickly if you're willing to put in just a little bit of extra work to make sure that everything goes well. Next week we're going to be talking about primer, which is a fun subject for me. I hope you will tune in, and until then, keep building. Thank you guys so much. Catch you later. Hey guys, hope you liked that video. If so, please like, share, and subscribe. If you really liked the video, check out my merch available on Society 6 and DM's Guild. Links below in the description. Thanks again, and I will catch you later.